I don't know if anybody saw the Washington Post yesterday or the New York Times today. The review of Funny Girl sure was different than it was last spring. I do have a group going next week, but oh my God, it's just incredible. So it may be something that you all want to think about going forward. I also want to re-announce my trip to New York on January 14th. We're going to see three shows that weekend. We're going to see Leopoldstadt, which is Tom Stoppard's play about his family that lived in Vienna from 1900 until the late 1930s. It's supposed to be spectacular. It won all kinds of Olivier Awards. We're also going to see the brand new musical Some Like It Hot. And we're also going to see the move over from off Broadway Kimberly Akimbo, which is supposed to be absolutely fantastic and got rave reviews off Broadway last year. There was just an article in People magazine about it. It seems to be the show that everybody's looking forward to. So we have tickets for all three of those, and three shows in January. It's really a bargain, frankly. So I hope some of you will think about doing that with me. I sent out an email about it the other day, and we are really making progress. Then on my London trip in the spring, our cabin block is almost sold out on the ship. So if you're interested, we can get some additional cabins, but please reach out if that's something you're thinking of doing. And you can do it without the ship if that's something that you're interested in. You can do just the land portion. So anyway, today I thought I would talk about the Gershwins, and I analyze. Here this music is now some of it 100 years old, and yet it's still popular. We still understand why. It's very contemporary, and George and Ira Gershwin really are symbolic to America in this time period some time ago. So they wrote every genre. They wrote popular and classical music. They wrote stage musicals. They wrote an opera. They had George had symphonic compositions, and they wrote movie scores. Their name was originally Gershwins, and it was shortened. And their roots were from the area that was oftentimes disputed between Russia and Poland. And because of forced drafting, the parents fled to the United States in the 1890s. They changed their names. Ira was born first, and George was the second born. They did have four children, but George and Ira, neither of them had heirs, so their estate was left to their great nieces and nephews. He became very, very successful at a very young age. He also performed in the Yiddish theater, and he was always frustrated because his piano teachers were focused on teaching him piano accurately, and his skills far exceeded that. He dropped out of high school at 15 and became what is called a song plugger on Tin Pan Alley. Tin Pan Alley was 28th Street between 5th Avenue and 6th Avenue. And he would sit around waiting, and a composer would come in, tap him on the shoulder, and he'd go in and play the song for the composer so the composer, could sing along with it or whatever to try to get it sold. This was not uncommon. And the other thing he did, you have to remember, player pianos were very much in vogue at the time. He created piano rolls that people could buy. There was no radio, there was no live music. So this was an important component for the ability to add this in to someone's living room so you could actually have music around. His first big success was the song Swanee, performed by Al Jolson. I'm going to show you a clip of this. I will promise you it is a little bit cringeworthy. This was from a movie called Rhapsody in Blue, which starred Robert Alda in the 1940s after George died. Well, you can see for yourself.
I've been away from you a long time. I never thought I'd miss you so. Somehow I feel your love is real. Near you I want to be. The birds are singing, it is song time. The banjo's strumming soft and low. I know that you yearn for me too. Swanee, you're calling me. Swanee, how I love you, my dear old Swanee. I'd give the world folks in CIX. I even know my mammy's waiting for me, praying for me down by the Swanee. The folks up north won't see me no more when I get to that Swanee I love you folks at home. Swanee, how I love you, my dear old Swanee. I'd give the world to be among the folks. I even know my mammy's waiting for me, praying for me down by the Swanee. The folks up north won't see me no more when I get to that Swanee shore.
Well, what can you say about that? It was of its time. He affiliated with William Daly, and they wrote three musicals which are long since forgotten. But with Buddy DeSilva, another collaborator, he created a one-act opera called Blue Monday, which many people think was the forerunner to Porgy and Bess. It was only seen once because in the penultimate aria, the woman who's taking going to get rid of her husband because he's cheated on her in a saloon in Harlem. She's supposed to shoot him. The gun doesn't go off. She yells bang in the middle of the aria. Everybody laughed, and that was the last time anybody saw it. But Ira starts to work with him. He was always in George's shadow, but he always felt he was George's protector. He married a woman by the name of Leonore, who was a very difficult individual. She was terribly protective of the Gershwin image, and she was the kind of person that either loved you or hated you. And to tell you what her style was, when she heard Rhapsody in Blue, she said, "Well, what good is it? You can't even dance to it." She had something that she said, which I thought was fascinating. It says, "You never talk about the show you've just seen until you're 2 blocks away from the theater because you never know whose mother you're standing next to." And I have to tell you, I've been to many plays where I've been with cast members, families, or friends in the audience, and you know it. And you just have to be really careful sometimes. Talking about the show in the lobby doesn't necessarily work to everybody's benefit. She was extremely difficult. She really married Ira because she was madly in love with George. But the reality was George wasn't interested in her, and she was extremely difficult. Almost no one in their family liked her, but they put up with her because Ira married her. She was a stubborn, arrogant, independent woman, but she and Ira, after they came back from their honeymoon, she told him, okay, separate bedrooms from now on. And you can only imagine, and Ira, I think, was too embarrassed to do otherwise but put up with her. And it remained that way for quite some time. This picture of Lee Gershwin with Barbra Streisand was at the installation of the Gershwin catalog at the Library of Congress. She was very, very, very difficult, and was not someone, she either was someone who was going to talk to you or someone that wouldn't. So one of the first collaborations between the brothers was Lady Be Good, and here is Eleanor Powell doing it in the 1940s in a movie, in a duet with a dog, if you can imagine.
Well, come on. Oh, so you want to get on this thing too, huh? Thought you did. Come on, faster. Come on, once more. Come on. Come on. Now sit down. I got work to do. Then, now horrible music. So you don't like the hula hop. Bet you can't do it.
I don't know how they got the dog to do all that, but can you imagine having to learn? Okay is another musical that they wrote together in 1927, and it had some great music in it. And I thought it would be interesting to hear Michael Feinstein, who was sort of the steward of the Gershwin estate. Let me tell you how that came about. Michael Feinstein moves from Indianapolis to Los Angeles, gets a job in a gay bar in West Hollywood, and he has a friend who he goes to swap meets for Hollywood memorabilia, and he finds an autographed copy of Rhapsody in Blue as performed by Oscar Levant. He was telling his friend about it, who was a beautician who does Mrs. Levant's hair, and he introduces Michael to her, and Mrs. Levant's very impressed with his knowledge, and he asks him, "Would you like to meet Ira Gershwin?" Well, you can only imagine. And she tells him, "But you have to get through Leonore first." Well, Leonore was so impressed with him that she says, I have these two walk-in closets in Ira's office that are just floor to ceiling, packed, chock full of papers. I've been trying to get him to throw them out for years. Maybe you could work with Ira, get these things thrown out. I think it's a 2-week job. Well, it took 5 years, and Michael Feinstein had so much knowledge of the Gershwin catalog that he and Ira became very, very good friends. Ira, unbeknownst to Lee, left Michael Feinstein 10% of the estate just to supervise its growth over the next decades. And Lee was so annoyed and infuriated with this that she hired attorneys to break the will. Feinstein just said, "This isn't worth my spending money on like this. I was never supposed to have it. Why should I take it now?" And he acquiesced. But that just shows you the kind of person Lee was.
One of the things that was very interesting for me was learning about the process of how many of these songs were created. Because the creative process of writing a piece of music is very mysterious, and the inspiration can come from anywhere. I believe it's divine. I think a lot of it comes from a spiritual source. But the nuts and bolts of achieving the final product of a song is sometimes a very circuitous path. And accidents happen that, in retrospect, are very happy accidents. And an example of that is how George and Ira came to write one of the most famous ballads. In 1926, they were working on a Broadway musical called OK. It's a show that starred the great British musical theater performer Gertrude Lawrence. And they had to come up with a ballad that she could sing in a rather plaintive and small voice. And yet, this particular day, George and Ira were working on the dance number for the show. And George played a melody that went like this. That's the melody he'd come up with, and the idea was that it had this syncopation. But as he was playing it, he was distracted by his sister Frances, who asked him a question, and he slowed down. slowed down, Ira's ears perked up, and he said, "George, play that again slow." And he played. And that's how they came to write this song that was always particularly important to Ira, because Ira wrote these words just around the time he married his wife Leonore. And he later confessed to me that one line in the song he wrote about himself: he may not be the man some girls think of as handsome. So this is for Ira and Lee. There's a saying old says that love is blind. Still we're often told, seek and ye shall find. So I'm going to seek a certain girl I've had in mind. Looking everywhere, haven't found her yet. She's the big affair I cannot forget. Only girl I ever think of with regret. I'd like to add my initial to her monogram. Tell me, where is the shepherd for this lost lamb? There's a somebody I'm longing to see. I hope that she turns out to be someone who will watch over me. I'm a little lamb that's lost in the wood. I know I could always be good to one who will watch over me. Although I may not be the man some girls think of as handsome, to her heart I'll carry the key. Won't you tell her please to put on some speed? Follow my lead, oh how I need someone to watch over me. She may be far, she may be nearby. I'm promising hereby, to my heart she'll carry the key. And this world would be like heaven if she'd follow my lead. Oh, how I need someone to watch over me. Someone to watch
What a great song. You know, we wonder why these songs are still popular. Well, Paul Whiteman was going to do a concert in 1924, and he commissioned George to write a piece for it, and quite frankly, he forgot about it. Was on a train coming back from, it was in Boston, actually, and Ira sent him a telegram that there was an article in the Herald Tribune about this piece that he was writing for this upcoming concert. He wrote a big chunk of it on the train going back from Boston to New York, and it's probably the most popular American composition of all time. And it's probably the most performed orchestral American pieces in the world. George claimed he wrote it in 10 days, but rumor said he sat down and wrote it with everyone. Now, Bernstein, I think, really was the one who performed it the best of anybody in the modern era. And, well, it's already probably 50 years old. But in any event, this is a snippet of Bernstein, who performed it many times in concert. And if you want to get a recording, there is a recording of Bernstein doing Rhapsody in Blue and American in Paris on the same CD. So I recommend it to anyone. And that's just a snippet. We could listen to the whole thing, but that would be 18 minutes on its own. He then goes to Paris to try to meet Ravel. And Ravel does meet with him. George wants to study with him, but Ravel says, why would you want to become a second-rate Ravel, excuse me, when you're already a first-rate Gershwin? From that time period, he wrote An American in Paris, which is probably the second most popular Gershwin composition. He does go out to Hollywood in 1929, as many did at the time, and he hated Hollywood, came back to Broadway, and they were writing many other pieces of music, and these are two that I think are significant. Wait! I just want to tell you what this is. This is from one of the musical theater programs in the United States. A lot of the universities have them, and it's amazing when you see this to realize these are college kids who have been choreographed to deliver fascinating rhythm. It's, I think it's truly amazing.
That's it. Got a little rhythm, a rhythm, a rhythm that pitter-pats in my brain.
So darn persistent, the day is distant, but it'll drive me insane.
Comes in the morning without any warning and hangs around me all day. someday I'll sneak up to it,
and then I'll speak up to it.
I hope it listens when I say, fascinating rhythm, you got me on the go. Fascinating rhythm, I'm all a quiver. What a mess you're making, the neighbors wanna know why I'm always shaking, just like a flivver.
Each morning I get up with the sun, but a heartbeat never stops.
To find at night no work has been done. I know that once it didn't matter, but now you're doing wrong when you start to patter. I'm so unhappy. Won't you take the day off, decide to run along somewhere far away off and make it snappy?
Oh, how I long to be the man I used to be.
Fascinating rhythm, won't stop picking on me. Got a little rhythm. Got a little rhythm.
Got a little rhythm,
Got me on the go.
got me on the go.
Got a little rhythm.
Got me on the go. Gotta go, gotta go. Go, 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 go.
Fascinating rhythms got me on the go.
Fascinating rhythms got me on the go. That fascinating rhythm.
Got a little rhythm, rhythm, rhythm.
Got a little rhythm, rhythm, rhythm. Got a little rhythm, got me on the go. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. Go, 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 go.
Once it didn't matter, and now you're doing wrong when you start to patter. I'm so unhappy. Won't you take the day off, decide to run along somewhere far away off and make it snappy?
How I long to be the man I used to be.
Fascinating rhythm, won't you stop picking on me?
Rhythm, it's got me. Rhythm, it's got me. Rhythm, it's got me.
You know, when you think that's a college, I think I'm blown away by it when you see the choreography and everything and the way the Gershwin song was executed. And the man I love, you know, the lyric is chastised by a woman that can only be satisfied by a man. And there's an interesting story about this. Ira was always cognizant of the fact that their music needed to be kept modern. And in a 1987 concert in the Hollywood Bowl, Michael Feinstein sang The Man I Love, you know, as if he was singing it to the man he loves. And Ira was furious for days until he thought it through intellectually and realized that Michael Feinstein was doing exactly what he wanted to have happen with their music. This is the singer Rebecca Luker singing The Man I Love in concert. There's a brilliant lyric there. I'll live at a little home, who would you? And, there had never been a question in a lyric before, and that was considered tremendously groundbreaking. In Funny Face, Fred and Adele Astaire, again, doing the Gershwin music, and this then becomes the musical My One and Only that Tommy Tune took over with Twiggy. Michael Feinstein was dispatched to Boston where it was trying out, and he was really upset that he didn't feel the music was purely done to the style that Gershwin would have written. But, Ira said, let it be, because this is the way we want people to see our music in a modern way. And
on May 1st, the curtain went up on a musical called My One and Only, and Broadway had itself that rarest of all show business phenomena, a brand new, bouncing, bona fide smash hit. Last week, it was showered with 9 Tony nominations, and 4 of them went to the 2 incandescent stars you're about to see, stranded on a desert island on our stage. Ladies and gentlemen, in the television premiere of one of the show-stopping numbers from My One and Only, the toast of Broadway, Twiggy and Tommy Tune.
Life has just begun. Jack has found his Jill. Don't know what you've done, but I'm all a thrill. How can words express your divine appeal? You can never guess all the love I feel. From now on, lady, I insist. For me, no other girls exist.
Wonderful, marvelous, you should care for me. Summer nights, paradise, is what I love to see.
You made my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling amorous.
Most wonderful,
Marvelous that you should care for me.
don't mind telling you, in my humble fashion, that you thrill me through with a tender passion. When you said you can't imagine my emotion, I swore then and there, permanent devotion. You made all other boys seem blind. Just you alone filled me with
It's wonderful,
it's wonderful,
marvelous.
it's marvelous.
You should care for me. Soulful night,
Soulfulness,
paradise.
paradise,
What I love
to see.
My dear, it's 4-leaf clover time. From now on, my heart's working overtime. Most wonderful, marvelous that you should care for me.
And another great number from the same musical, I mean, the finale. It's just Tommy Tune doing his magic, but the great Gershwin music as well. Forget the choreography, which is not forgettable, but the fact that this reintroduced the Gershwin music in the 1980s to a whole new generation. That's what's so important about it. The musical strike up the band, kind of interesting. Who was in the pit? Jimmy Dorsey, Benny Goodman, Gene Krupa, and Glenn Miller. Just truly an amazing. And the song "I've Got a Crush on You" was in this, and it was always sung as an up-tempo, very quick kind of a dance song until Frank Concerto in F, and most of his classical pieces were trashed by the critics, many of it with anti-Semitic slurs, and it was a jealousy thing that who was this Gershwin that could do all this? Girl Crazy, of course, introduced us to Ethel Merman, but it was really Ginger Rogers who was the star. And when you look at this, you look at Ethel Merman and go, boy, she wasn't unattractive in 1930. And here again in the pit was Benny Goodman, Gene Krupa, Glenn Miller, and Jimmy Dorsey. I guess you had to work during the day before you could do something really terrific. And it was filmed in the early 1940s, about 1941, new story, whatever. And this is Judy Garland doing Embraceable You.
Dozens of boys would storm up. I had to lock my door. Somehow I wouldn't warm up to one before. What was it that controlled me? What kept my love life lean? My intuition told me you'd come on the scene. If you listen to the rhythm of my heartbeat, you will get just what I mean. Embrace me, my sweet embraceable you. Embrace me, you irreplaceable you. Just one look at you, my heart grew tipsy in me. You and you alone bring out the gypsy in me. I love all the many charms about you. Above all, I want my arms about you. Don't be a naughty papa. Come to baby, come to baby do. My sweet embraceable you.
Well, and then here she's not getting everything the way she wanted it, and Ira really understood how to show a broken heart.
Oh, man, sunshine, listen you. Never tell me dreams come true. Just try it, and I'll start a riot. Beatrice Fairfax, don't you dare ever tell me he will care. I'm certain it's the final curtain. I never want to hear from any cheerful Pollyannas who tell you fate supplies a mate. It's all bananas. They're writing songs of love, but not for me. Lucky stars above, but not for me. With love to lead the way, I found more skies of gray than any Russian play could guarantee. I was can get that way. Hi-ho, alas, and also lack a day. Although I can't dismiss the memory of his kiss, I guess he's not for me.
Poor Judy. Of Thee I Sing came next, which was a Pulitzer Prize winning political satire written and directed by George S. Kaufman, and about a man running for president, making fun of our political system. We could use a little poke at that now, I guess. George and Ira Gershwin writing this. What was so interesting about it was it pokes fun of the vice president. Nobody knew who he was. When he went to the White House, they thought he was one of the tourists there. And it was done by Paper Mill Playhouse a number of years ago. I have a friend who's very involved there, and I think it's going to be really neat to see what they did with it. It's a spectacular piece that needs a revival.
Love is sweeping the country, waves are hugging the shore. All the sexes from Maine to Texas have never known such love before. See them billing and cooing like the birdies above. Each girl and boy alike sharing joy alike feels that passion will soon be national. Love is sweeping the country. There never was so much love. Winter green for president. Winter green for president. Winter green for president. Winter green for president.
Shining star and inspiration, worthy of admiration. Why should I care? Life is one long jubilee, so long as I care for you, and you care for me.
We'll send the news nationwide. He stands by his bride.
See you later, boys.
Let Him Eat Cake was a sequel to it sometime later. But Porgy and Bess, of course, is the great masterpiece. George Gershwin took an option on the play Porgy in 1927, and it took him years to get around to it. It was when DuBose Hayward finally pressured him and said, look, Hammerstein and Kern want it. Either you're going to do it or they're going to do it, but somebody needs to do this. And it was very audience challenging. Having a prostitute as a drug addict as the lead in a play is not exactly an easy thing to watch in 1935. Very, very complicated. And it was almost totally sung through, also something not typical for the Broadway audience. And again, no one knew what to make out of it. The opera critic complained about the form of it, and it was even called a gefilte fish of an opera. And, really, you can tell the anti-Semitism toward George at the time. It was revived in 2011 by the theater in Cambridge, ABT, and it created some controversy because it was slimmed down to go it from 50 people to 18 people, adding dialogue, cutting out music so that it could be done in a Broadway house with success. And here's maybe one of the most famous songs from Porgy and Bess.
It's Rosie, baby, baby.
Summertime and the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich and your ma is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing. Then you spread your wings and you'll take the sky. But till that morning, there's nothing can harm you. With Daddy and Mama standing by. Standing by.
So beautiful.
Yes, it is. And then, it ain't necessarily so from the British National Theatre.
The things that you're liable to read in the Bible, it ain't necessarily so. Little David was small, but oh my. Little David was small, but oh my. He fought big Goliath, who laid down and died. Little David was small, but oh my. What do you zip and blue, zip and he lived in the whale. He lived in the whale. For he made his home in that fish's abdomen. Jonah, he lived in the whale. Little Moses was found in a stream. Moses was found in a stream. That child floated on water, alone. Pharaoh's daughter, she fished him, she saved him from that stream. What do zip and blue, zip and blue, what it was? Oh, it ain't necessarily so. Oh, it ain't necessarily so. They tells all you chillin', the devil's are vinnin', but it ain't necessarily so. To get into heaven, don't snap for a 7, live clean, don't have no fault. Look at me, I ditch that gospel whenever it's possible, but with a grain of salt. Methuselah
100 years. I'm preaching this sermon to show it ain't Nessa, ain't Nessa, ain't Nessa, ain't Nessa, ain't Nessa.
Now, many say West Side Story is a direct descendant and Sondheim, and there's a 1952 version. They do go to Hollywood after Porgy and Bess. They were in great financial distress because they lost so much money on Porgy and Bess. But by this point in time, George is having major headaches. He thinks it's just tension, but it turns out it's a brain tumor. And of course, that's not good news for him in 1936. He had a 10-year affair with Kay Swift, who was a songwriter and lyricist herself. She divorced her Wall Street husband to marry George, but of course he never married her. And many felt that the reason they didn't get married was his mother would have objected to him marrying a non-Jewish woman. He was quite an egotist. If he was at a party, he took over the room doing whatever he wanted to do, played a piano. He was very proud of his Jewish heritage and was always involved with the Jewish charities. However, they do end up in Hollywood, as I mentioned, and Oscar Levant becomes a great friend of his. And there's going to be a play later this spring about Oscar Levant and his wit, starring Sean Hayes. But Oscar Levant was a great interpreter of George Gershwin. And I talked a little bit earlier about Michael Feinstein, so I'm going to just breeze by that quickly. And that leads us to the modern Gershwin musicals. My One and Only, Crazy for You, Nice Work If You Can Get It, Porgy and Bess, and An American in Paris. And of course, these are some. This is Crazy for You.
That's perfect. But what would the Great White Way be without a little traffic? So some traffic, please. That's enough. That's enough. The opening set for the first of tonight's 4 Tony-nominated musicals, Crazy for You.
Bad news, go away, all round someday in March or May. I can't be bothered now. My bonds and shares may fall downstairs. Who cares? Who cares? I'm dancing and I can't be bothered now.
Hi, Bobby. Hi, Bobby. Hi, Bobby. Hi, Bobby. Hi, Bobby. Hi, Bobby. Hi, Bobby.
Well, I'm going to speed through because I just want to end with this.
And now it's my huge honor to introduce a true.
That's Leslie Caron introducing An American in Paris in London.
I was young. And
I don't know what happened to Leslie Caron. Nor the music to American in Paris. Oh, my great finale. It didn't work. Well, anyway, I hope you all had fun today and enjoyed the Gershwin music. And for those of you who I'll see over the weekend on our trip to New York, I'm looking forward to seeing those of you who are going. And again, if you're interested in any of the future trips to New York, we have the one January 14th and 15th. I have a lot of you who have been asking me questions about that. And I just want to see what the chats are, to see if there's anything in here that I need to answer. Anyway, great seeing you all. See you all next Friday as usual. And as soon as I get the recording done, I'll send it out. And I look forward. Take care, everybody.